She never listens to me, that woman. I've got to keep telling her twice. The next question was, do you prefer to sew a project from scraps or a brand new cut of fabric? For example, if someone gives you a bag of scraps and a piece of fabric, which would you use first? Well, probably like the rest of you, I would look at the fabric and think how great it was, and the scraps, and probably fold them up and stash it. But it would depend on what the fabric is and what the scraps are. Because if there were scraps, I would be thinking, yeah, I can do something with that. If something came into my head. But then if it was a fabric, I might have a vision of a dress or a pair of trousers or a top or something in that fabric. And if I had an exact vision of something, yes, I would probably get on with the garment. I'm trying to think. Jenny once sent me, well, do you remember Jenny? Well, she sent me some fabric, and at the same time she sent me some scraps, and the scraps that she sent me were African fabric. And I immediately thought, oh, the African fabric, I could make this and I could make that and I could make the other. And I was thinking of hats, I was thinking of a top, I was thinking of a skirt, but I never got around to doing any of them. And I tended to, if I reflect back, the African fabric was lovely, but I ended up putting it to one side. Whilst the other fabric that Jenny sent, I made dresses and things out of it. I think I could see, with a big piece of fabric, I could see more potential in it, let's say. I could see more potential in it. Whereas with scraps of fabric, you've got to really think of what you're going to do with it. Now, having said that, I've just been cutting up some fabric. I bought it, I think it was over a year ago or more. I bought some fabric swatches, curtain fabric swatches. A couple of curtain fabric books. And I've been cutting them up, and His Lordship broke the book up and let me have the fabric, and I've been cutting them up, and I was actually thinking, oh, they'd make good things. I was thinking of toilet bags and makeup bags and all sorts of patchwork things. I could do lots of things like that. So but I think the scrap fabric, you've got to think a lot harder for. You've got to really think outside the box at what you can do, whereas the actual fabric that you're given, you can actually imagine a dress or a garment, and it's straightforward. You can say, oh, well, that's nice. Oh, that would look lovely as a dress. That would look lovely as that. And then you just got to look for the pattern and decide which dress pattern you want to do. Whereas the scrap fabric, you've really got to work on what you want to do with that scrap. So yes, I would go for the fabric first rather than the scrap. Whew, that was a long one. The next question was, what's your favourite project to sew, big or little, garment or, for example, a wallet? I enjoyed making those little portemonnaie purses. I made quite a few. I gave some away. I gave my daughter one, and she wore hers right out, and she asked me to make another one. Gave one to Debbie, who used to work for us, and she said she loved it and she'd worn hers out, and could I do another one? And I enjoyed making those. I tend to do, it depends on the time of year. Now that's a good one, because I like making the wallets in January when it's winter and it's cold, and I don't really fancy making dresses and you're not in the mood, and I like making small projects, and the wallet I can turn out in a day. And I thought I used to turn quite a lot out. Garments, I do like doing garments as well. Funnily enough, I was thinking about this. When I Over the years, I have made everything from a tailored jacket with the canvas inside. I went to tailoring courses and learned how to make a man's jacket. The guy who took the class was a guy who used to make suits for Burton's the tailors, and I enjoyed that. I like the complexity of it, and I enjoyed doing that. Now, would I do it now? If somebody said, can you make a tailored jacket, I'd probably go, oh God, no. I really don't want to be doing that. Probably because of my age. But I think if I was challenged to do one, I would enjoy something. I like a challenge. I like something where you've got to really make yourself think outside the box and try and do it, or you've got to really work at it to create the garment. But I don't do that very often these days. I generally like things you can quickly rustle up and get it, you know, like those Donny shirts which I made. I could rustle them up in a couple of hours, and I felt that was great. Whereas a tailored jacket took a week, for me, a good week to make, or at least 4 or 5 days to make. The next one was, have you ever made a mistake when sewing a garment? Oh golly, have I made a mistake? I've made one the other day. I'm always making mistakes. You can be the best sewer in the world, but I'm sure I'm sure every sewer has made a mistake. Sewn the back inside out, sewn the front to the back. If you're trying to rush to get, I think I have made loads of mistakes. In fact, recently the last garment I made, I had to unpick it twice, and I was so annoyed. And then you make mistakes where you're not really paying much attention, or you're trying to rush to get things done, and you catch a bit of the fabric in the overlocker, and you've ended up with a big hole, which is what I've just done. And you know, there's all sorts of mistakes you make, but you kind of learn from them, or you try and overcome them. And if you are a beginner and you make mistakes, do not worry. Don't worry. In fact, I'll tell you what, the other day, I haven't even shown you it. You may remember I downloaded a Lacala pants pattern to my measurements. And I thought, right, I'm going to use some of my scrap and make this pants pattern. It was a lovely pants pattern, but for some reason it didn't fit me. I'd have had to lose about, even though it was my measurements, I would have had to have lost a good 6 inches on my, well, no, not 6 inches. It had darts in it, so I had to unpick the darts. And then it fitted me, but because it was so tight, it didn't feel right. And the mistake was I should have really measured it all up before I did it. But cocky me thought, oh, it'll be fine. It's my measurements. Everything I've done with the collar is fine. And it has been, but these were trousers, and I'd never made trousers with them before, so I should have probably just done a muslin. But they were very on the tight side, and to be honest, I just thought, I'm going to bin them. I binned them. So yes, I do make mistakes, and sometimes they're quite pricey ones. Fortunately, the fabric that I used was, do you remember the cheap canvas fabric that I got for £4 or £5? When I made the dungarees, well, it was one of those. I thought I'd make it with the cheap one and see what it turned out like, and I'm pleased I did use the cheap one. I will not be making those pants again. Next one, which fabric do you enjoy sewing most? I have to say that I love sewing with jersey. The reason why I love sewing with jersey is so quick. You can get away with sewing it on your overlocker or your serger. It cuts great. You don't have any fray ends. You haven't got to worry about finishing the edges as much because the overlocker will finish it. And even before I had an overlocker, Zigzag used to do them. My son reminded me that when they were younger, when they were 8 and 9, they all used to run for the Harriers. And at that time I was into making little sweatshirts for them. And I made these 2 coloured sweatshirts where it was the top half was one colour and the bottom half was another colour. And the sleeves were another colour. I think they ended up being 3 colours. And they loved them. Red and, no, maybe just 2 colours. Red and blue or something. Or blue. One was blue and red and the other one was red and blue or whatever, you know, the opposite way. And they loved wearing them. And they used to come back from the Harriers and say, Mum, Joe Knightley wants a pair, wants you to know if you could make him one, and so wants to know where you got them from because they love them. And I actually think it was great because I could turn them out in no time. They're very quick to make. Jersey's always quick to make. You don't have as much fuss and bother with it. And I think you sometimes make more mistakes with it and get away with it. I think so. So yes, my favourite fabric has got to be jersey. When I first started using jersey, I just thought it was great. And last one is, what do you love best about sewing? Do you know what I love best about sewing? What I love best is it's my little world. I think I've told you this before. It's my little world. When His Lordship and I, we have our evening meal, and then he'd disappear up to his music room and I'd disappear into here. And I'd say, I'm off in here. And my little world, I asked Google to play me a podcast or play me some music. Okay, Google, play me a sewing podcast.
Sure. Love to sew on Google Podcasts. I'll pick up where you left off.
Okay, Google, stop. So then it plays me a podcast and I'm happily sewing away and I'm listening to that. And I remember my dad...
Is there a range I should stick to?
Okay,
like
Google, stop.
Says 10%. I shouldn't...
She never listens to me, that woman. I've got to keep telling her twice. I remember my father used to, as I say, he used to be a watchmaker. And he used to repair watches, but he never had much. He used to have so many watches to repair that he never had time to get them all done. So he used to come home and have his evening meal, and then he'd go back to work and work till midnight. And he used to say to me, there's nothing I love more as being at work on my own with just my workbench light on, mending these watches and listening to Radio 4. Because that was all we had in those days. And he said, they'd tell you that I'd listen to the play and all these other things. And he used to say he loved it. Well, I now know what he means because it's my own little world that I can close in on. I can sew, I can listen to this, I can just close in. And I'm very fortunate because I've got no kids, got nothing to worry about. Even when I had kids, once I put them to bed, and I locked myself, well, I didn't have a room then. I just used to sit at the end of the dining table back then. But I'd get the sewing machine out, and I don't know how they managed to sleep because the sewing machine would be going right till about 11 o'clock at night. And one of the bedrooms was just directly above me. But I'd sew and I'd sew and I'd sew. And I just kind of closed in on myself and just enjoyed my lovely little world. And in those days you didn't have lights, spotlights or anything on anything. You maybe had the sewing machine and maybe it's the sitting room light, but it was just closing in on your own little world, and that was before the time of podcasts and everything else. So yes, I just love the fact that it's just me time. It's my mental therapy, let's call it mental therapy. So I have gone on for an awful long time and I want to get this uploaded. So I've enjoyed that you've asked me some really good questions. I'll have to have that another time. Later on we'll have another Q&A time. I've got quite a few vlogs I want to put up. In fact, although I haven't been able to get on here, I've been putting bits together. So I'll try and get another vlog made soon. We went out for the day, a little bit of a history one for those of you who like our little cruises out, and there's a couple of others to come. So I'm going to love you and I'm going to leave you and I'll catch you next time.